Good evening. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and this evening will be a hero spotlight for Star-Lord. We'll be playing a leadership Star-Lord deck. Star-Lord is my favorite of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and in the testing for this hero spotlight, he did much better than I thought he would. I was pleasantly surprised by how strong Star-Lord was and is, and so we'll take a look at him tonight and we'll talk about his strengths and his weaknesses. We will start out with Crossbones on Heroic 1. Star-Lord was able to clear the entry-level challenges Rhino and Absorbing Man on Heroic 1 fairly easily, which makes him the strongest of the heroes that I've done spotlights on so far. And much stronger than I anticipated when I was going into this hero spotlight. So let's dive into the games. The first will be Crossbones on Heroic 1 difficulty. Here we go. This leadership deck is very similar, if not identical, to the one used in the Nebula hero spotlight in terms of the aspect and basic cards used, but Star-Lord is able to make much more effective use of them than Nebula can because he's better at generating resources than Nebula is. Star-Lord has one of the basic criteria that I would consider essential for an S-tier hero, which is that he comes with cost reduction or resource generation or card draw built into his hero card, as he can once per phase anyway, reduce the cost of a card by 3 as long as you're willing to take an extra encounter card in order to do that, which makes for some very interesting decision making and some very interesting combo potential and very interesting strategies available to Star-Lord to down scenarios that are not available to other heroes. So he's a lot of fun to play. I like him a lot. His setup ability and his alter ego, he gets to go grab a copy of Element Gun. His hero-specific ally Nova Prime is situationally good, but when there's not a non-elite minion on the table to defeat, he's really not something that we want to play typically. And here I'm going to take an encounter card, use Star-Lord's cost reduction to reduce the cost of the Element Gun by 3, and then use Nova Prime to deal 3 damage using the Element Gun. And then we will draw 5. So we're going to have 3 encounter cards coming in. The boss should have gotten a experimental weapon card as a result of his when revealed effect, or I think it's actually in the main scenario. But the attack from Crossbones is going to go on Groot, and he takes 3 damage, and then he heals 2 damage thanks to his card text. We also had a machine gun discard, and then we got 3 encounter cards, and the first one is Shadow of the Past. That's a tough one to get right off the bat. Star-Lord his nemesis is very tough, and that may very well just simply be a loss because Star-Lord, his nemesis is no joke. So his nemesis makes the first treachery gain Surge, but I don't know if I remembered that or not. Then we had a toughness and another toughness. So what I'm thinking about here is whether or not I want to use cost reduction. This is probably moot because I think I am likely to lose this game. Due to the early Nemesis reveal. We're gonna take an encounter card to get out Leader of the Guardians to hopefully deal with the side quest. Use the Element Gun for 3 damage. And then we'll take an additional encounter card with Daring Escape in order to be able to ready up and get in the additional thwart necessary to get rid of the side scheme. And once again, Groot is going to tank the damage. First we have a machine gun card and then the attack for 3. 4, 5, and that is going to kill Groot, so we'll have to chuck the rapid response to bring him back with 1 damage on him. And Mr. Knife is going to attack, and then we got 2 encounter cards, so a total of 4. Hydra Soldier, Hydra Flame Soldier. Full auto, which is going to be discard 3 cards and take damage for the boost icons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. Maybe it was 7. We can live, but only barely. Then we got Weapon Master, which is going to be an attack. I don't know why I haven't reset already, to be honest. This is almost guaranteed to be a loss, so let's talk a little bit about the strengths and weaknesses of Star-Lord. His main strength is that cost reduction. The cost reduction is very, very strong. And the other strengths of his class are his helmet, which enables you to get extra card draw for each face-down encounter card in front of you. And then his access to the card Nowhere, which allows you to draw a card each time a Guardian enters play. And that doesn't seem that good until you note that Star-Lord's hero, one of his hero powers, is to give every ally Guardian the Guardian trait, which means any ally that enters play when Nowhere is on the table can draw a card, though that can only happen once per phase because you have to exhaust Nowhere to draw a card. As I've said many times, the thing that makes the hero strong, there are a few things, but the main thing, the thing that a hero really can't be S tier without, is strong resource generation, and Star-Lord has that with his cost reduction built into his hero power, with Nowhere, and with Star-Lord's helmet. Now, the cost reduction built into his hero power can be somewhat hit or miss because it has the caveat. So here is a good example of why you never want to flip to Alter Ego, because the boss just completed the main quest in 1 turn, basically, I think it was. Let me check on this again. So I flipped to Alter Ego, the 1 threat that's standard completed phase 1, and brought an additional experimental weapon into play. Then the boss schemed and completed phase 2 in conjunction with the ally. And then Advance came into play and completed phase 3. So a single time flipping to Alter Ego and we lose. Which is why I say so often that heroes that have to flip to Alter Ego to take full advantage of their kit are not good. They just aren't. Because some scenarios you can't flip even once. But anyway, the cost reduction that's built into Star-Lord is sometimes hit or miss, because sometimes the extra encounter card that you bring into play can be quite difficult to deal with. But more often than not, I think that his cost reduction is positive for the player. And to have that built into the hero is very good. So in this second attempt at this scenario, the experimental weapon is the worst one you can get, the Retaliate 1 weapon. So we get rid of that right away. And we're going to get Drax out. And here I'm going to spend Element Gun. This is something that I do relatively often playing Star-Lord, is I don't play Element Gun right away, I just throw it away to pay for something. Because spending 3 resources on it turn 1 can be a bit... well, you don't get much for the resources that you spend. And when we're facing heroic difficulty quests, you usually have to get off to a fast start. And playing Element Gun for 3 resources doesn't usually qualify as a fast start. So I will often throw away the Element Gun that I get with my setup ability to pay for something else, and then I will play the second Element Gun that I draw. Or sometimes I won't play an Element Gun the first time through the deck, and I'll play it second time through the deck. The only thing that really affects is that you can't play Sliding Shot until you get an Element Gun into play. So here, off to a better start with Star-Lord's helmet out right away. That's very good. Weapon Master is going to get Crossbones and attack, and he's going to get to Surge. Now, this actually is a little bit iffy. I wasn't sure if this should Surge or not because the Weapons Master says that if Crossbones has a weapon attachment, then this card gains Surge. He did have a weapon attachment when this was revealed. He had his machine gun, but the machine gun goes away when it's out of counters, and it's out of counters by the time the attack is over, but I still think it does Surge. The Weapon Master card. I'm not 100% sure about that. But anyway, we played it as if it surges. Master Plan is the card, and that's going to bring in a side quest. Cornered Staff. And then we got Raid the Armory with its Insight 1, and we got a discard until we find a weapon attachment. So it's going through the deck pretty rapidly. We're going to have a weapon attach or a acceleration token on the main scheme before long. Actually, right now, because we went through the entire deck finding a weapon attachment only on the last card. Not off to a great start. So here I'm thinking about what to do. I realize I've got to discard and add more threat to Cornered Staff potentially. And I'm going to play Element Gun using Star-Lord's discount, so that's an encounter card. Then I'm going to play Gutsy Move, and that removes 2 threat plus 2 for each encounter card, so that's going to be 4 threat. That gets rid of the side quest. And then I'm going to use the Element Gun, and I'm thinking about Daring Escape, but I don't think I will. Just going to flip to Alter Ego here. And that's going to clear phase 1 of the quest and get rid of the acceleration token and bring in another experimental weapon. We'll just have to hope it doesn't go as poorly as the last attempt where the boss was able to just immediately win after I flipped to Alter Ego. Here he does flip all the way to phase 3. So he advances 2 phases just from one Alter Ego flip. It's an unforgiving scenario in that regard. There are a few of them in the game. So he gets a tough status card from the first encounter card. We got 2 more to go. There's his machine gun again. And his armor. So the boss is getting ramped up. He ramped up faster than I am. Thinking about whether I want to heal or not. And I decide I'm not. So we'll get out White Tiger. Got the Element Gun to go through that toughness. It's really irrelevant. But the damage goes on Crossbones' armor, and then Star-Lord will finish the armor off. And then we'll use Drax to put Crossbones into phase 3. And then he gets his last experimental weapon card. And now we'll get all White Tiger using Star-Lord's discount, and that'll draw 3 cards. I wanted to wait until after I got to stage 3 to play White Tiger because I draw an extra card, which is very, very strong. And we'll go ahead and use Daring Escape, take on an additional encounter card, and draw a card. And I'm thinking about a big sliding shot turn here. That's what I'm going for, and I was hoping I could find a second sliding shot with Kalu. No such luck. 3 rapid responses. What are the odds of that? I'm just thinking about what I want to do, counting all the resources. Trying to figure out if I have enough for a sliding shot and Groot as well, which I don't. And thinking about who I want to keep when I pay for the sliding shot. So there's the sliding shot. It goes off for 9. 5 plus 2 for each face down encounter card. That drops Crossbones to 7. I go 1, 2, 3. And then I can do 2 more with Star-Lord. Not quite enough to win. Now I reconsider the damage. Since I don't have lethal, I remove 1 threat from the getaway. And so all I have to do is survive this turn of an attack, a machine gun, and 4 encounter cards. I get to draw 2 extra thanks to the Star-Lord's helmet and the 2 face down encounter cards. So we've got a machine gun card incoming. It's going to be for 2. Take that to the face. And then an attack which will be tanked by Kalu or White Tiger. I'm just checking the cards to make sure there's no overkill. Overkill would kill me. And so if we survive these 4 encounter cards, then we got a victory. Banishment, that flips. That's not such a bad thing though, because it means no attacks. Crossbones Assault, the combat knife added to the list of his attachments, and then a blank surge, as we're now an alter ego, and it becomes a Hydra Flame Soldier, and that's going to be game over. Got our pick of ways to finish off Crossbones. And so that's going to be a win on Heroic 1 difficulty against Crossbones, something I hadn't been able to do with the heroes that I spotlighted so far, except for I think Nova was able to down Crossbones on Heroic 1. So next up we're going to move on to Green Goblin Mutagen Formula on Heroic 1, which is a interesting scenario for Star-Lord to take on. And we're back with Star-Lord versus Green Goblin on Mutagen Formula. This was a scenario that was beyond Nova's capabilities. No other hero that I've spotlighted has been able to defeat this scenario. And we'll see how Star-Lord does against it. It's a very combat-oriented scenario. But there are a couple of keys to this that are beneficial for Star-Lord. First, well, basically Green Goblin, there's one central key. Green Goblin in Stage 2 and Stage 3 has a when revealed of dealing 2 encounter cards for Stage 2 and 3 encounter cards for Stage 3. And that means that there are some very interesting possibilities for Star-Lord to take advantage of those encounter cards to have big turns, and even possibly an OTK on Green Goblin in Stage 3. So we'll see how this goes. Get to go grab a copy of the element gun for the setup, which I'm going to do now. And we'll use Welcome Aboard and Strength to play Nick Fury and draw 3 cards. I shouldn't be able to play Welcome Aboard until I flip to hero form, but that doesn't affect anything in this situation, because you can only play Welcome Aboard if your identity has the Guardian trait, and Star-Lord's alter ego does not. So here I'm dealing myself the 2 encounter cards and taking a 3rd encounter card in order to reduce the cost of Beast, and then I'm playing Welcome Aboard to play Beast, and grabbing the Strength resource card using Beast's ability. Then I'll use 3 resources to get out Element Gun. I will do that turn 1 in this situation because I have a strong board setup with Nick Fury and Beast on the board already. And then I'm thinking about whether I can use Sliding Shot, which I really can't. It'd be nice to get off a Sliding Shot for 11, but I chose not to go for that and instead stick with the Element Gun play. Well, you have to stick with the Beast play, really, If I hadn't played Beast, I could have gotten off a sliding shot for 11. But I chose Beast instead. I'm not sure if that's the right play. Now here I'm reconsidering how I want to do things because I'm thinking about the sliding shot and just hoping and wondering whether there's a way that I could do everything that I wanted and play Beast, but no, there isn't. So gonna just take a 4th encounter card here, play a Daring Escape. Don't have the resources for sliding shot. But I could play Maria Hill, draw a card, and then use that card to do the element gun on the Goblin Thrall, which is what I'm gonna end up doing. So 4 encounter cards plus the 2 from Heroic 1 is going to be 6 encounter cards for this turn. I have a strong setup to be able to deal with it. So we get 6 damage on the Green Goblin. Then we'll draw 5 and just hope to survive the onslaught of encounter cards. Green Goblin's going to attack Nick Fury. And here comes the 6 encounter cards. We got Monster, that's a bad one. When revealed, I get stunned by that one. Master Plan, that's a bad one. Goblin Thrall. Intimidation, that's going to be a boost card, that's not that bad. Goblin Knight, that's a loss. Those are the 2 worst minions in the encounter deck, and this will likely be a loss. I haven't even remembered that I should be stunned yet by the monster. I really don't know why I haven't just scooped it yet and reset. And there we go. Now we reset. So, first attempt is a failure, but we'll try it again. Pretty good hand with Star-Lord's helmet in opening hand. That's the best card in his hero kit. Got both copies of the element gun. So we'll welcome aboard and booster boots to play Drax. Get out the element gun using Star-Lord's discount. So that's going to start us with 3 encounter cards. Get out Star-Lord's helmet and we'll use the other element gun to fire the first element gun and take out the Goblin Thrall. And we'll deal 3 damage and thwart for 2. Not sure what happened there. Oh, it's just an attack, which I face tanked. Okay. So, now we got our encounter cards. We got Pumpkin Bombs. We got Goblin Glider. We got Goblin Knight. That's not great. We got a Scheme for 2. And then a Goblin Thrall. Okay, could be worse. Could be better. I do have a large hand, thanks to Star-Lord's helmet. So we'll start off getting out nowhere. So we got strong resource generation now. Very early in this one. We got Star-Lord's hero power. We got his helmet. We got nowhere. Ironheart comes in, draws a card for Ironheart, draws a card for nowhere. That's great. And I'm going to use the discount and probably get out Nova Prime here. But we'll see. I can't use it to take out the Goblin Knight. That's an elite minion. No, I use the discount on a sliding shot to take out the Goblin Knight instead and save Nova Prime for later. And then we'll get some damage on the Green Goblin. So setup's not bad here. Actually, it's pretty good. The helmet and nowhere, and the health is in reasonable shape, and we got a couple of allies for blocking. So we're looking pretty good. Green Goblin's attack on Ironheart. Pumpkin Bombs go off for 2 indirect damage to the face, and then 2 encounter cards for the Heroic 1 difficulty. Death from above, so the Goblin attacks. That's gonna probably have to go on Drax. And then Goblin Reinforcements and Goblin Soldier. So we got Welcome Aboard and Power in All of Us for Nick Fury. That's strong. So 3 plus 1 for Nowhere is going to be 4 card draw. We'll take a penalty in order to use Star-Lord's discount in addition to rapid response, and we'll play Beast. I always like to take a resource from the discard pile instead of the deck if I can, because it reduces the amount of time before I take an extra encounter card. Now I'm thinking about whether I want to play Maria Hill or Nova Prime. And I decide on Nova Prime because retiring the Goblin Soldier is really good. So I deal 1 damage. And I'm going to use Daring Escape to fire the Element Gun. And we'll thwart for 2, get rid of Goblin Reinforcements. And deal 7 damage, and then we'll draw 5 plus 1 for the encounter card thanks to Star-Lord's helmet will be 6. So you can really see in this scenario the power of additional card draw and resource cost reduction. That's what this game is all about. Taking a look at my discard pile to see if there were any sliding shots left in my deck. I'm down toward the end of the deck, and I wanted to know if I could count on getting a sliding shot soon, because I have Daring Escape and White Tiger, and that could affect whether I want to take on encounter cards or not if there was a sliding shot left in my deck, but there weren't. They're all in the discard pile. So Goblin gets a second attack here with the Overconfidence. Gets shuffled back into the deck. That boost card does because of its card text. Got a Pumpkin Bombs, and we got an Intimidations. That's an extra boost card. So that cleared out my board a little bit. I can push Goblin into phase 2. See, one of the major reasons I was checking for a sliding shot is because when Goblin goes into phase 3, he's going to deal 3 face down encounter cards. And if I did 3 face down encounter cards plus 1 for Star-Lord's hero power plus 1 for Daring Escape, that'd be 5 face down encounter cards, and that would mean sliding shot that would deal 15 damage. Plus 3 from the Element Gun would be 18, plus 2 from Star-Lord would be 20, and 3 from Nova Prime would be 23, so that would be close to, if not an OTK, on the boss if I had a sliding shot left in my deck, but I don't. I can get out White Tiger and draw 2. I should have waited until I pushed Green Goblin into phase 3, because then I could have drawn 3. We'll get out Bad Boy, we'll get out Rocket and White Tiger. We'll push the Goblin into phase 3 here, I'm sure. Relatively sure. There we go. That's going to bring 3 encounter cards into play, which at least will mean a large hand. I'll get to draw 5 plus 3. And we'll get 4 damage on the Goblin. And I can't fire the Element Gun, but I can draw 8 cards, which is very good. And that's going to deck me, so 1 more encounter card. So we're going to have a turn of 5, and as long as I get through that, I'm going to win. So 1 threat, 1 attack, which could go on White Tiger. And then 2 indirect damage for the pumpkin bombs. I have Bad Boy, so I'm not worried about being at just 1 HP. Shadow of the Past, no problem with the Nemesis coming in at this point, though it could mean 1 more encounter card because first treachery the engaged player reveals gets surged. Though, hit or miss whether I actually remember that or not. Got a Goblin Glider. That's not a treachery. I thought for a moment that it was. Goblin Thrall, Goblin Thrall. Advance. So he's going to scheme. That's going to advance the scenario to stage 2. And I got to discard 3 cards and bring in a minion for the when completed effect. And that's going to surge into an overrun, and then we got monster. So we're into phase 2. If we can get through these 3 Goblin Thralls and deal 15 damage in 1 turn, then we're going to win. We'll see. So if I can attack, I can use down 1 Goblin Thrall with Nova Prime. I can down 1 with the Element Gun. I can down 1 with Rocket Raccoon. And then I have Sliding Shot and a variety of other cards to try to deal the 15 damage. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3. And I wasn't sure if I can do Overkill or not with the other Goblin Thralls on the table having guard. I played it as if I can't. I'm not sure if that's the correct thing to do or not. It's possible I could have had 1 more damage there. That Goblin Glider is on Mr. Knife, by the way, because Green Goblin already has 1. Anyway, Nova Prime takes out 1 of the Goblin Thralls. The Element Gun is going to take out 1 of the Goblin Thralls. I realized at this point I should have drawn a card for Drax with nowhere. So the Element Gun takes out a Thrall, and now we need to do 15 damage. Now 12 damage. 10 damage. We've got a Sliding Shot and a Daring Escape to make that happen, so this is going to be no problem. Daring Escape brings in an encounter card, and the... Oh, maybe it is a problem, because Sliding Shot's only good... No, we have Star-Lord's Discount. So we use Star-Lord's Discount, we add a second encounter card, and then we'll be at 9 damage on the Sliding Shot, and that will end the game. So you can see in this scenario why Star-Lord is so good. When he gets his helmet and nowhere out early in the game, he is near unstoppable and a ton of fun to play. There can be some scenarios, though, where in an attempt to just survive in the early game, you use Star-Lord's hero abilities and you take on too many encounter cards and you just die. That is a very real possibility playing Star-Lord and will happen, but you also can do some crazy bursty things where you can deal with 3 Goblin Thralls and then deal 15 damage to the boss in 1 round with no problem. And Green Goblin Mutagen Formula on Heroic 1 is no joke. Star-Lord is much stronger than I thought he would be when I was going into this hero spotlight. I was imagining a hero that might struggle to down Rhino on Heroic 1, but he did well. I guess when I initially played him, the Guardian Cycle wasn't out yet, and we didn't have Beast yet, and I don't think we had Welcome Aboard yet either, because that came in the Venom Hero Pack. So Star-Lord, when he was initially released without the benefit of the other Guardian Cycle cards, was a very incomplete hero, so when I played him in my progression series, he didn't seem that good. Now he seems to me like an S-tier hero. And so we're going to try him for The next scenario on the difficulty list would be something like Drang on Heroic 1. I did try Star-Lord against Drang, and he did lose. That's not going to be the last scenario we're going to show, though. The last one we're going to show is Magneto on Expert difficulty. Magneto, the least of the big three villains. That would be Magneto, Venom Goblin, and Ronin. Magneto is the easiest of those three. Those three being the hardest villains in the game. We're going to play against Magneto on Expert difficulty to see what Star-Lord's ceiling is. So, here we go. We got Magneto on Expert difficulty. And we'll see how Star-Lord does. Magneto is tough. My opinion is that Venom Goblin and Ronin are both tougher. And we don't just want to see if Star-Lord can beat Magneto, we want to see if he can beat Magneto reliably. That's typically what I'm looking for when I evaluate heroes. I mulligan my entire hand there. I'm not just looking to kind of fluke a victory or get a victory 1 in every 10 times or whatever. I want to see heroes and decks that can beat content reliably. So, thinking about what to do here. Gonna get out Gamora to start. And get out the element gun. I decide to spend 3 resources for it, rather than using Star-Lord's ability, so that I limit my exposure while I'm getting set up. And we'll go ahead and flip the side scheme to Sabotage Master Mold. It's important to get through all stages of the side scheme as soon as possible, but in particular you want to get past Sabotage Master Mold before stage 1 of the main scheme is completed, because stage 1 of the main scheme, when it's completed, it'll bring in another Sentinel if you haven't gotten past Sabotage Master Mold yet. So Magneto gets an attack which goes to the face, and 1 Magna encounter, and we get 2 encounter cards. 1 because of Magneto's when revealed effect, and 1 because of the normal one. So, no magnetic cards to give to Magneto, but he is still going to activate against me. And that's going to be another attack to the face. And 2 Magna encounters now on the main quest. If he gets 3, we discard until we find a magnetic card to reveal. So we'll get out Nowhere, that's good. It's one of the 2 resource generators that we're looking for. It's less than Star-Lord's helmet, but it's still good. We'll get out Ironheart and draw 2 cards, 1 for Ironheart and 1 for Nowhere. I can't play either of the 2 cards, so we'll use the Element Gun, we'll use Star-Lord to take out... I'll use Gamora instead to take out the M-type Sentinel, which gives Magneto a tough status card. And I can discard until I find an event with Gamora. Daring Escape, if I would care to use it, I probably wouldn't. Which means I can't really use any of the cards that I have in my hand. So get Sabotage Master Mold off to the victory display and bring in Orbital Decay. And I'm going to discard all 3 of those cards and then draw 5. There's the helmet, that's good. So 1 threat, 1 attack from Magneto. It's going to be the 3rd magnetic counter and a magnetic card, which will be Electromagnetic Blast. Exhaust each upgrade and support you control. Place 1 magnetic counter, and then we subtract 3 at the end. So it's left with 1 magnetic counter. And we got Advance for 1, 2. That's going to complete the stage 1 of the main scheme. We don't have to reveal an N-type Sentinel because Sabotage Master Mold is already in the victory display. And Unision is going to come in. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. These acolytes are tough. They have tough effects. So I don't have any ally to use Welcome Aboard with. My element gun is disabled or exhausted, so I can't use it to take out Unision, go through the toughness. Gonna use the Star-Lord's helmet, gonna use Gutsy Move. But we're in a rough spot here. Content on the board that we can't clear. And low health. So we'll get the side scheme cleared. To physical strain. This attempt looks like a loss to me. Magneto will attack. Nucion will attack. And then we got Master Plan. Seems I forgot the magnetic counter, but I don't think that's going to matter. Magnetic Mayhem. Yeah, we'll get out Nick Fury and draw 3 and then +1 with Nowhere. It's going to be an additional counter card because I cycled through the deck. But we're ramped up now with Star-Lord's helmet and Nowhere out. Play White Tiger and draw 2 more cards. So it's not hopeless. Not hopeless. Get Maria Hill out and draw 1 more card. Fire the element gun. Now I'm realizing that if I kill Unision, she's just going to give a tough status card, so I might as well kill her first. Yeah, it heals Magneto for 3, but eh. So we're gonna scheme and scheme. We'll get rid of the toughness. Or scheme and attack to get rid of the toughness, and we'll flip to Alter Ego and heal. And then draw 5. Just gonna leave Magnetic Mayhem for the time being. Now it looks like there's hope for this one. So we got a scheme, which does clear Phase 2, unfortunately. And so it doesn't matter that I forgot the magnetic counter. And then we got 2 encounter cards to deal with. Magnetically Sealed. Place 2 additional threat here for each ally. That's up to 8 threat. Ouch. Well, now it's back to looking like a loss. Nick Fury leaves at the end of the round. Just took too long to get set up, really. With a full setup quickly, could Star-Lord defeat Magneto reliably? I think he can defeat him. I don't know if it would be a high win percentage, but I think he can defeat him. Now, Venom Goblin or Ronin. Ronin maybe with a rushdown strategy. Venom Goblin probably not. So we use Nova Prime to get rid of the Sentinel, which adds a toughness to Magneto. We're gonna fire the element gun, which has piercing, so it goes through the toughness. And we're gonna get some damage in. I realize I forgot to draw a card with Nova Prime with Nowhere. And I decide I'd rather use the gutsy move to element gun than the other element gun. So I'm thinking I may need that if I'm going to try to get the boss down before I thread out. And we'll we'll go ahead and draw up to 6, +1 thanks to Star-Lord's helmet. Didn't take an encounter card for the discount here. I maybe should have and gotten out a second element gun and draw a second card. Arguably, that's probably what I should have done. So the Acolytes are getting shuffled into the deck because of a boost card, and with only 6 cards left in the deck, that's pretty devastating. Means they're all gonna come into play in short order. Well, not all of them, but some of them will come into play in short order. Also should have added a magnetic counter there, which I may have forgotten again. I don't know if that'll make a difference or not. Now I remember it. And I'm going to discard to find a magnetic card, which does nothing but surge, because there aren't any sentinels in play. Surges into Amelia Vaught. And then we've got 2 more magnetic, or 2 more encounter cards, so a stun and a, well, nothing else, and then a wrapped in metal. So we're in trouble. I don't think I can get Magneto down before I thread out. So I get rid of wrapped in metal, but I'm still stunned, which means no element gun, and that's pretty devastating. The combination of the stun and wrapped in metal was rough. Those 2 encounter cards together really supported each other well. So we'll get out Kalu. Sliding shot. Get out a second element gun. I definitely would have wanted to push Magneto into phase 3 here if I hadn't been stunned. Go 1 damage, then 1, 2, 3. Just going to ignore Amelia Vaught. And I'll decline to use Gamora's responsibility. So 1 threat from on the main scheme and 1 attack from Magneto. And Amelia Vaught will deal a damage. It should be 2 magnetic counters there now, but I don't think that's going to matter. 1 encounter card, which is Senyaka. And Acolytes, when they interplay and you have teamwork, 2 Acolytes, they're both going to activate. So it's going to be a damage from Amelia Vaught and then damage from Senyaka, which is why Star-Lord lost 1 HP and Gamora died. So we're going to put Magneto into phase 3. That's going to bring in an encounter card. So we actually do have a chance here. We could OTK Magneto potentially if we could find a sliding shot. So we use the discount. Draw a card with nowhere. Not a sliding shot, unfortunately. Daring Escape. Draw a card. It's Ironheart. And we should deal another encounter card for that. So we've got 3 now. And we can go Ironheart, draw a card, Daring Escape. So we're actually looking at the beginning of something here. Piercing plus 3 damage. A sliding shot at this moment would be 11. And we got Daring Escape. So now it would be 13. Nope, no sliding shot. And I don't have the ability to draw any more cards. So I think there were 2 sliding shots in my deck. And if one of them had come up, this would have been a victory. I'm looking at my discard pile now to see how many sliding shots were actually in the deck. And I realized that there were still 2 of them. So I think it was a good play that I did, and it didn't work out, but it very well could have. Because a sliding shot would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 11 damage from a sliding shot, then 3 from the element gun would be 12, 13, 14. 2 from Star-Lord, 1 from Rocket. And I have the resources to pay for sliding shots, so yeah. Finding a sliding shot would have been a victory. Without it, I don't have a victory for sure, and I'm going to die in this next turn, so that's going to be game over. But I had a very good shot at winning. Very, very good shot at winning. I think when this turn started, I had, 9, 10 cards in the deck, and 2 of them were sliding shot, and I had like 3 or 4 draws at getting it. 1 with Ironheart, 1 with Nowhere, and or was there only 2 draws at getting it? So what were the odds of that happening? I think it's like 36% of the time there I get a win against Magneto on Expert. So Star-Lord can really do some crazy things in terms of bursting through bosses stage 3. And he's a lot of fun for that reason. I like him a lot. He's definitely capable of defeating Magneto on Expert difficulty. I don't know if he's capable of defeating Magneto with a high win percentage, but he's definitely capable of defeating that scenario on Expert. So I would consider Star-Lord an S tier hero. Maybe like he's not going to probably be... Well, we'll have to wait and see how high up the S tier he ranks. There's only one hero in the game that can reliably beat all of the content on Expert, on at least Expert, and that is Spider-Ham, and everybody else is fighting for... Well, Spider-Ham's an S+, everybody else is fighting amongst themselves in the S tier to see who's best, but Star-Lord is a lot of fun. Now, one thing to note, if you're going to build a Star-Lord deck for multiplayer, you got to make sure that your teammates are on board with the Star-Lord mechanics, because bringing in so many extra encounter cards can make a big problem that your teammates have to solve, and not every player group may be cool with that. Considering that Star-Lord isn't really the best hero in the game, and I don't know if he's close to it or not. He is very strong, but the prospect of dealing with all of the problems that Star-Lord creates, some groups would be on board with that, and some may not be. So before spending a lot of money to build a Star-Lord deck, and he does take a lot of money to build this one because you got to pick up like the entire Guardian cycle. Before doing that, if you're building him for multiplayer, I would make sure that your team is on board with him. And also, you got to have your leadership slot open in the team, because that's really Star-Lord's forte, is leadership. He takes advantage of the leadership aspect pretty well. And you're going to lose something going with Justice, and he's really not good with Protection. Aggression he can do some things with, but leadership and protection are really the top 2 aspects in the game, just in general. Anyway, some things to consider when thinking about whether you want to build a Star-Lord or acquire the content to build the best Star-Lord deck possible. So, in the next video, we'll talk about the deck more and give a buying guide for this Star-Lord deck. And thank you for watching.